Lucas was groggy and only knew that Leo's arms were very strong. When he hugged him, he used so much force that it made him a little painful. But Leo's kiss was so gentle, full of cherishment in his actions. Lucas only had one thought in his mind. Oh my God, his boss was kissing him. What a miraculous thing this was. It seemed that Leo was not very Lucas didn't dare to say what was in his mind. He closed his eyes and let Leo rub his lips chaotically. Nevertheless, he still felt sweet and his joyful mood was about to overflow. He could truly feel that Leo liked him. The president liked him. This realization was so wonderful that it made him dizzy and elated. Lucas had a muddled head and soon gave in, softly leaning in Leo's arms. Leo was even worse at breathing than him. After a while, he let go of his lips, hugged him tightly, and gasped roughly in his ear. The low breathing sound was so sexy that Lucas's ears burned and his face blushed to the point of dripping blood. After the two calmed down for a while, Lucas then realized that they were in a public place. There was an artificial lake nearby and people walked back and forth by the lake from time to time. And the background music had changed from Casablanca to It's a Good Day Today. The management must have seen them on the surveillance camera. How embarrassing. Amid the cheerful music, Lucas pushed Leo away and said, "We're still outside." Leo touched his own lips, still craving more, and said, "Then it's okay inside, right?" "What do you mean by inside? How improper. I didn't expect you to be such a president." Lucas gave Leo a glare. Leo slightly raised the corners of his lips, reached out to stroke Lucas' hair, and said, "Don't think about anything. Just think that someone likes you and someone will treat you well." If not reminded like this, Lucas would definitely get stuck in overthinking again after he went back, thinking about stupid questions like whether falling in love with his boss would affect his work. Speaking of this, Leo felt a bit regretful. Most of the current situation could be attributed to the fact that he had pushed Lucas too hard at the beginning. When Lucas was first transferred to the president's office in order to let him quickly adapt to the position, Leo did some things to push him, resulting in Lucas being extremely afraid of him and never daring to defy him. In Lucas' heart, the image of Leo as his boss and direct leader was deeply ingrained and difficult to change. However, Leo tasted the sweetness today and was confident to make further progress. Lucas was like being under a spell, listening to the president's words and nodding non-stop. Leo said, "Then let's go somewhere else and continue." Lucas immediately came to his senses and asked, "Continue what?" Leo raised his eyebrows. Lucas started shaking his head frantically. Leo was really considerate. He stopped while he was ahead and didn't tease Lucas anymore. Instead, he held his hand and the two left the lakeside. Before leaving, Leo made a gesture of thanks in the direction of the speaker by the lake. Seeing this, Lucas blushed and lowered his head again. Leo's car had been towed away for disposal. Lucas' car was still in the parking lot near the park. Leo accompanied Lucas to get the car and asked him if he wanted to have a meal. Lucas was still in an unreal state and didn't feel hungry at all. Leo let him off and told him to go back and have a good rest. Before leaving, Leo grabbed Lucas and instructed, "Think about me when you go back tonight. Think about me whenever you have time and even when you sleep. Don't slack off." Lucas thought that Leo was so domineering. As expected of a capitalist, he even exerted pressure in this regard. Leo added, "I'll check on you in your dreams. Don't even think about slacking off." Where did the CEO learn such cheesy yet exciting love lines? Lucas returned home and calmly lay on the sofa recalling what had happened that day. From time to time, he pinched his own face to see if he was dreaming. After a while, a delivery guy came to the door. Lucas was puzzled because he hadn't ordered any takeout. It turned out that Leo had ordered dinner for him. After seeing off the delivery guy, Lucas received a message from Leo on his phone, "If I don't take care of you, you'll just eat instant noodles again." What's this? It's like the tone of a boyfriend. Lucas looked at the insulated food containers from the hotel restaurant and a smile appeared on his face. That night, Lucas really did dream of Leo. Leo still had the image of a vampire with a pale face and fangs in his mouth. However, this time, the vampire kidnapped him and demanded that he become the bride of the vampire clan. What a mess. Lucas was speechless about his own dream. Still, he got up early in the morning and rushed to the company in a hurry. When Leo arrived at the company, Lucas had taken care of everything as usual. Standing at the secretary's position, Lucas smiled at Leo and said, "Good morning, Mr. Leo." He seemed no different, but the faint blush on his cheeks revealed his thoughts. Leo remained calm with a cold and composed expression. He nodded as a greeting. Lucas watched Leo enter the CEO's office and blinked. "Is that all?" He was all handsy and kissy yesterday, but today he's acting like a strict boss. He changes his attitude so quickly. How cold. Lucas knew that Leo was keeping his promise and doing this to avoid affecting work, but he still felt a bit awkward. Do they have to draw a clear line even when they're alone? Thinking about it like this, it's a bit lonely. Lucas suddenly came to his senses and patted his own face. What are you thinking about? You're being petty again. The one who doesn't want to interfere with work is him, and the one who doesn't want to be treated coldly is also him. Even Lucas himself thinks he is hard to please. He steadied his mind, quickly put on a serious look, and started his day's work. After a while, Leo came out again and asked, "Has the audit team arrived today?" Lucas looked at the time and replied, "They usually arrive at 9:30. They should be here." Leo nodded and strode towards the meeting room where the audit team was. Lucas quickly followed. When Leo pushed the door open, the auditors were having coffee. During this period, whenever the audit team came to Shearway, Lucas would order a delivery service in advance to send them hot coffee. So the people in the audit team got into the habit and their taste buds were spoiled. They couldn't work in peace without coffee every day. The auditors were chatting and laughing while having coffee. The atmosphere was relaxed. Who would have thought that Leo suddenly burst in? Seeing the situation in the meeting room, Leo said coldly, "We're providing you with good food and drinks so that you can improve your efficiency, not to slack off." As soon as he said this, the atmosphere in the meeting room immediately changed. The team leader of the audit group stood up and said, "Mr. Leo, what do you mean by this?" Hearing that it was this person who called Lucas for questioning, Leo glanced at him and clearly said, "What I mean is that you're slacking off, delaying time, and not playing the role of audit, supervision, and inspection at all. I demand to replace the audit team." The team leader's face turned pale instantly. He took a few steps towards Leo, hardly believing his ears. "What did you say?" Ignoring him, Leo continued, "Especially the team leader. As the direct person in charge, you not only failed to play a supervisory role, but also had a lax attitude. You intimidated my employees without evidence and spread false rumors everywhere, causing panic and disrupting the normal work of the company's staff." The team leader's face turned red in an instant. Disregarding etiquette, he angrily said, "Don't make unfounded accusations." Leo asked, "You've been at Shearway for so many days. How's the progress?" The team leader stammered and couldn't answer. Their main task was to find evidence of wrongdoing at Shearway from the accounts, but after so many days, they had found nothing. If they said the progress was good, Leo would tell them to finish up quickly and go back early, but if they said the progress was slow, wouldn't that confirm the accusation that they were being passive and procrastinating? Seeing this, Leo sneered, "I will submit the evidence of your neglect of duty to the group. Don't stay here anymore. Get out of here earlier." Leo said this quite impolitely. The team leader was both angry and confused and said, "I think you are worried that we will find something, so you want to drive us away." Leo said, "I will hire a qualified third-party auditing institution to conduct a review. I will be responsible for any results." Only then did the team leader of the auditing group react. From the very beginning, Leo didn't trust them. No matter what they found, Leo would ask a third-party institution to conduct a check. The team leader secretly wiped the cold sweat off his face. Fortunately, he didn't cheat, otherwise he would have to confront the results of other institutions later. However, they obviously angered Leo. Before, Leo could tolerate them throwing their weight around in the meeting room, but today he suddenly took action and personally drove them away. They must have done something over the line. After thinking it over and over again, the team leader suddenly remembered that he had called Lucas for a private question yesterday. He raised his head and looked at Lucas. At this time, Lucas was standing behind Leo with a calm face and a composed attitude, but his eyes were always fixed on the president in front, full of reverence. The team leader of the auditing group understood. Threatening the secretary and offending the president, they couldn't stay in Shearway anymore. He regretted it very much. Leo scanned around and issued an ultimatum, "There's no need to waste time. Pack up your things and leave by yourself." After saying that, he walked out of the office. Lucas followed behind and quickly and quietly asked, "Mr. Leo, is it okay to do this?" After all, the auditing team was the chairman's people. Leo snorted and said, "What could be the problem? At worst, he would be scolded as an unfilial son again. Anyway, for him now, Alexander's scolding doesn't really matter." Lucas looked at Leo's back and knew that he was standing up for him. He quietly curved his lips. The people from the audit team were scolded by Leo. It was no longer interesting for them to stay, so they quickly left Shearway and vacated the meeting room. The chairman immediately called. Leo answered the call alone in his office. No one knew what exactly the father-son duo talked about. When Leo came out, his expression was normal. He said, the group's audit team has issued a report. I've read it and it's basically true. There's no need to find a third party. The audit is over. Since the president had said so, although others were strange, they had no objections. It's the weekend today. There's no overtime tomorrow. Lucas always remembered what Leo had said yesterday. Leo said he had booked a restaurant. Would he invite him to dinner today? Lucas would never admit that he was a little looking forward to it. But until the end of work, the president still had that business-like face. There were no intimate actions and he didn't say a single extra word to him in private. He was even colder than when they were pretending to be a couple when signing the contract. When it was time to plan dinner, Leo didn't come to invite him. Instead, he left the company directly. Lucas angrily organized his own things and those in the president's office and left work huffily. Is this the attitude of pursuing someone? Lucas decided to postpone the deadline for the pursuit. When he got home and was about to order takeout, the doorbell rang. Lucas walked to the door, looked at the surveillance, and his lips curved up. But he quickly adjusted his expression and opened the door. Leo was standing at the door, carrying big and small bags. Lucas asked with a straight face, "Why are you here?" Leo waved the bag in his hand and said, "I'm here to cook for you." Lucas deliberately said, "Who wants to eat the food you cook?" "I want to have a luxurious meal at the scenic restaurant." Leo said, "How tacky. I'll cook you private kitchen cuisine. Isn't it better than that?" Looking at Lucas without the coldness he had in the company with a relaxed expression and gentle eyes, he said, "What's wrong with me being the chef just for you?" Lucas felt a warm feeling in his heart and then stepped aside to let Leo in. Leo entered Lucas's rental house again and made the same comment for the third time. "It's still so small, just like a pigeon coop." Lucas murmured in a low voice, "Of course it's not as big as the scenic restaurant." Leo turned around and said, "You want to go there so much?" "Next time. I've canceled today's reservation." Lucas complained, "Didn't you say you'd give me romance? There are no flowers, the restaurant reservation is canceled, and the band is off. There's nothing left, just a cook." Leo glanced sideways and said, "It seems you're very dissatisfied, little secretary." He took out a gift bag and stuffed it into Lucas's hand, saying, "Those are too tacky. I disdain them. I'll create new romance for you." Lucas curiously examined the gift bag in his hand. The bag was wrapped so tightly that he couldn't see what was inside. There was a ribbon tied on it, which was quite delicate. While Lucas was examining the gift, Leo carried the ingredients into the kitchen and said to cover it up, "I'm cooking. Don't disturb me." What on earth was it that he didn't even dare to watch Lucas unwrap it in person? Lucas stood in the living room and carefully opened the bag. It felt so soft. A soft little figure poked its head out of the gift bag and its innocent eyes like black beans looked at Lucas. Lucas was stunned. It was actually a doll. He took the whole doll out. This doll had a head bigger than its body. It was wearing a gray suit with big open eyes, round and chubby, looking very cute. There was a small work permit hanging around the doll's neck and there were 3 words written on the permit, "Secretary's Certificate." Lucas' heart softened all of a sudden. The suit on the doll was exquisitely made. Even the tie and buttons were sewn separately and the fabric felt extremely smooth. It was obviously a custom-made one, indicating that the person who designed and made this doll had put in a lot of effort. Lucas stroked the soft hair of the little figure, looked at its beady eyes, raised the corners of his mouth, and deliberately said loudly, "Why did you give me a replicant?" This doll was made in Lucas' image, even the hairstyle was the same. Leo's voice came from the kitchen and said, "I thought the other little figure in your room was too lonely. It's just right to put them together as a pair." Lucas grumbled in his heart. "You just wanted to find a wife for your shadow clone." Despite his thoughts, Lucas loved this doll to bits. He secretly kissed its big head and hugged it into the bedroom, then put it together with the Mr. Leo doll on the cabinet. The secretary and the president. The Mr. Leo doll finally had a companion. Lucas was very satisfied. However, the secretary doll was obviously more delicate than the president doll. The Mr. Leo doll was transformed from instant noodle prince. Leaning beside the well-dressed secretary, it looked like a worker. Lucas couldn't help laughing a few times. He walked out of the bedroom, came to the kitchen, and looked at Leo's busy figure. Leo, with his back to Lucas, asked, "Why don't you go and play with the 2 little figures for a while longer?" Lucas said, "I'm not a primary school student. Anyway, no one saw the scene where he kissed the doll's face just now. Besides, the 2 little figures are a couple. Am I not afraid that the poor lonely person cooking would be lonely?" Hearing this, Leo turned to look at him and said, "Adults aren't lonely either. There was limited time, so a big meal couldn't be made after all." But Leo was good at cooking and he made all the dishes that Lucas liked. When serving the dishes on the table, Leo somehow produced scented candles and crystal wine glasses and placed them on the table in a serious manner, creating a candle-lit dinner atmosphere in the small rental house. Looking at the flickering candlelight, Lucas couldn't help asking, "Didn't you say these were very tacky and you disliked them?" Leo replied, "Dislike them as I may, a sense of ritual is still necessary." Lucas laughed again. The president is really cute when in love. There's a sense of freshness all the time. The two of them sat face to face at the table for dinner. Leo poured the red wine into the glasses. The wine, as sweet and smooth as agate pomegranate juice, sloshed in the crystal, clear glass. Lucas picked up the glass, looked at Leo with clear eyes, and said, "Cheers, Mr. Leo." Leo really wanted to say that there was no need to call him Mr. Leo in private, but he knew that Lucas couldn't change his habit for a while, so he didn't force it. He also raised his glass and deliberately said, "Cheers, little secretary." Lucas was dissatisfied. "Where am I, little?" Leo always liked to call him little secretary in a joking tone recently. Lucas didn't know that Leo had been calling him that in his heart for a long time and only started saying it out loud recently. Leo said, okay, not little, very big, the chief secretary." The transparent glasses clinked against each other, producing a clear and charming sound that echoed in the small room, tugging at people's heartstrings. Combined with the sweet wine, it stimulated the eardrums and taste buds, making people intoxicated. Lucas was very satisfied with this meal. In his eyes, the food cooked by Leo might be even better than the dishes in the View dining restaurant. After the meal, he got up to clean up the house but was stopped by Leo. Lucas said, "I don't have a housekeeper here. There wasn't even a dishwasher." Leo said, "It's okay. Leave it for now. There are other things to do." In this wonderful time, refused to do the dishes. Lucas still wanted to say more but was pulled into the bedroom by Leo. Leo saw the dolls placed on the cabinet and also realized that his shadow clone doll was too shabby. He said, "It's like a country bumpkin marrying a wife." In the president's mind, the lowest end image he could have was a country bumpkin, but this doll was clearly an instant noodle delivery worker. Lucas said, "Why not make a pair?" Leo insisted, "I only want this one. Changing it won't have the right flavor." Even though the instant noodle prince doll was very simple and had his photo pasted on its face, he only recognized it as his representative. After the two of them fiddled with the dolls for a while, Leo then asked Lucas, "Where are the previous contracts?" Lucas paused for a moment, then took out the two contracts from the locked drawer deep in the cabinet. Now, when the two of them looked at the contents of the contracts, they both couldn't help but feel a lot of emotions. "Looking at it now, it seems unnecessary," Lucas said. The relationship between Leo and the chairman continued to deteriorate. Everyone who needed to know about the fake couple situation already did, and everything had returned to square one. "No," Leo said. "It's very necessary. If it weren't for these two contracts, the company would have developed, but definitely not so smoothly." The attitudes of Alexander and Nolan towards him had both changed because of the fake couple situation. Moreover, only after a fake relationship could a real one develop. Leo thought that even without the fake couple arrangement, he would still have fallen in love with Lucas, but the process would have been longer. Leo looked at the last part of the contract. At that time, the two of them had jointly set an expiration date, which was until the time of victory. Leo said, "Now that we've achieved victory, this contract is hereby null and void." Lucas looked at him. Leo looked calm, and his eyes were more determined than ever. He grabbed Lucas's hand and their fingers intertwined as they held the contract. Slowly, they tore the two pieces of paper. Leo said, "From now on, there's no more fake, only real." Lucas showed a smile. Leo loved seeing Lucas smile. Through his smile, he could see stars twinkling in his eyes and feel the gentle spring breeze brushing against his lips, which made his heart flutter. Leo tightened his grip on Lucas's hand and stared into his eyes. But Lucas seemed to remember something and said, "I have something else here." He let go of Leo's hand, which made Leo feel disappointed. Lucas took out an envelope from the drawer and stuffed it into Leo's hand. "The severance pay the madam gave me, I haven't touched it at all. I didn't even open it." Hearing this, Leo fell silent. Afraid that Leo would be unhappy, Lucas quickly said, "I didn't take it to heart. I just thought it was necessary to return it to the madam, but I didn't dare to contact her directly." Leo suddenly said, "Aren't you curious about how much is inside?" Lucas waved his hand. "I never intended to accept it in the first place. The amount doesn't matter." Leo said, "What if it's 100 million? Lucas. Why does he feel a little tempted?" The two got together and Leo unsealed the envelope to see how much Elena had given. It wasn't 100 million but still 10 million. Leo was even more disappointed than Lucas, that's all. Lucas comforted him, it's already a lot better than the ordinary N+1. Leo handed the envelope to Lucas, you keep it. I'll make up the rest for you later. Lucas refused, I don't want it. He said seriously, since the contract has been torn up, don't give me the double salary from before either. Although he loved money, he didn't want to mix feelings with money. Leo said, what's wrong with me sending some money to my little boyfriend every month? Is it illegal? Lucas glared at him, who said I'm your boyfriend? I'm still in the courtship period. Leo said again, what's wrong with me using a little money to court my prospective little boyfriend? It's also not illegal. Lucas couldn't argue with him, so he had to say, vulgar. Leo hugged Lucas and said, vulgar it may be, but as long as it works. Lucas was pulled into his arms with his back against his arm, looking up at him from below. This posture made Lucas feel extremely ashamed and he couldn't help blushing. Lucas found that the president was completely different in private from how he was in the company. He was more unrestrained, daring to say and do anything. Lucas thought that perhaps this was Leo's true nature. He had been so pent up in the oppressive environment before. Since Leo confessed his feelings yesterday and got a response from Lucas, he had tasted the sweetness and become even more unrestrained. No wonder he was a single man who had been repressed for 30 years. Once he got the hang of it, it was like a storm and Lucas was a bit overwhelmed. Leo hugged Lucas, stroked his eyebrows and eyes, with a curve on his lips and joy in his eyes. It turned out that loving someone really could be seen in one's eyes. Lucas's heartbeat was so loud that it made his eardrums vibrate. Leo lowered his head. Today was different from yesterday. At this moment, the two of them were in a private space without any interruption. Leo nibbled on Lucas's lips gently. Lucas was so excited that he couldn't help but grab Leo's clothes and twist the fabric between his fingers. It was said to be just a pursuit, but he always acted so quickly. However, the president hugged him forcefully, so strong and domineering that Lucas felt a little happy. He wanted more. Lucas opened his lips. Leo's movements suddenly paused. However, at such a moment, not taking action was not manly. After a while, Lucas pushed Leo away and looked at him with moist eyes, looking as if he had something to say but hesitated. Leo gasped and asked, what's wrong? The hot breath sprayed on his face. Lucas felt a little embarrassed. He shrank his feet, bent his knees, and whispered, you may not be very Lucas put it euphemistically, but Leo understood. This meant that his kissing were poor. Leo calmed his breath and said menacingly, are you despising me? Lucas was so scared that he quickly shook his head and said, of course not. Leo stroked his rosy cheeks and said in a soft but cold voice, it will be better with more practice. It made a lot of sense and was irrefutable. Lucas thought he would continue practicing immediately. He prepared himself mentally and was about to close his eyes when Leo picked him up, laid him flat on the bed, then turned around, took out his phone and started surfing the internet. Why are you looking at your phone at a time like this? Lucas didn't understand. He turned over and curiously leaned over to see what Leo was doing. Leo found several useful pieces of information and showed the phone page to Lucas, saying, find some tutorials and learn from them. Lucas saw the big words on the phone screen, kissing tips and how to conquer your male or female god with superb kissing. Leo remained calm and asked, do you want to read the text guide first or watch the video first? Are there even teaching videos? Can they pass the review? Lucas curled up shyly and said, stop. Let's just practice directly. Practice makes perfect. That won't do. What if you go in the wrong direction without theoretical guidance? Leo lay down beside Lucas, put one arm around him, and with the other hand, clicked on a page and began to read the content aloud. Gently touch the other person's lips and take the next step according to their reaction. Bite with your teeth. If it's too dry. Stop. Don't read anymore. How can this guy read such things in a serious and articulate tone? Isn't he ashamed? Lucas almost dug a castle on his own bed. He sat up straight and tried to grab the phone from Leo's hand to stop him. Leo rolled over and pinned him down, saying seriously, okay, you've supplemented your theoretical knowledge. Now it's time to practice. He held Lucas's face and, following the online tips and guides, put them into practice on Lucas. After a short break from practice, he got up, continued to look at the phone, read to Lucas, practiced after reading a paragraph, and continued to read after the practice. Finally, he even excitedly clicked on a video and forced Lucas to watch it with him. Lucas was going crazy because of him. A 30-year-old single king, invincible, not only thick-skinned but also very eager to learn, always eager to try new things. With tears in his eyes, Lucas thought that he couldn't beat the president whether at the company or in private. Leo had extremely strong learning ability. With the help of the text guides and videos, he quickly mastered the core and used them, making a series of advances. Finally, Lucas lay on the bed with a swollen mouth and a blank look in his eyes, looking utterly dejected. Leo thought he had mastered the and no longer needed those guides. He tossed his phone aside and asked Lucas for his thoughts. How was it? Was it comfortable? It turns out that theory and practice should be combined. Lucas couldn't hold it back any longer. He turned over and took the initiative, punching Leo on the shoulder a few times and complaining, "You're so annoying." Leo looked at Lucas with his wet eyes. Being hit by him a few times didn't hurt at all, instead it felt quite pleasant. Is this what was mentioned before as acting coquettishly? How cute. Leo propped up his arm. Lucas was so scared that he pressed on Leo's chest and said again. Leo then let him go, put his arms around his waist, pulled him into his arms, and gave a soft chuckle. Lucas rarely saw Leo smile. He wanted to raise his head to look at the president's face, but Leo pressed his head down and wouldn't let him. Leo silently hugged Lucas, and Lucas secretly pressed his face against Leo's firm chest, his heart pounding fast. Lucas had never had such a feeling before. This was his second relationship. Lucas couldn't help but recall his previous experiences. He knew it was an insult to the president to compare Leo with that scumbag, but he had to say that the feeling Leo brought to him was unprecedented and couldn't be compared with that of the scumbag. Lucas then realized that what he had experienced before couldn't even be called a relationship. A real relationship should be like this, full of excitement and satisfaction. Gradually, the two of them calmed down. Leo kissed Lucas on the hair and said hoarsely, "I have to go." Lucas was stunned and subconsciously asked, "Won't you stay?" Leo asked teasingly in return, "Do you want me to stay?" Lucas immediately fell silent. Leo stroked Lucas' black hair and whispered, "Of course I want to stay, but I dare not." Lucas raised his head and looked at Leo. From his deep eyes, he saw something explicit. Lucas understood and shyly shrank back. Leo got up from the bed, stretched his body, and said, "I'll come to pick you up tomorrow afternoon." Lucas looked up again, gazing at Leo's broad back in fascination and asking, "What are we going to do tomorrow?" Leo said, "It's not for fun. There's something to do." Lucas was puzzled, but Leo didn't want to say more. He stood up, tidied his clothes, and prepared to leave. Lucas quickly jumped out of bed and followed behind him. When Leo left, Lucas thought to himself that the president was really amazing. Even he felt reluctant, but the president just left without any hesitation. Lucas sent Leo to the door. Leo turned around and said to Lucas, "Actually, I really don't want to leave." Lucas smiled and said, "Tell me for sure whether you're leaving or staying." Leo looked deeply into his eyes and said, "1, I'm reluctant to leave. 2, if I go, you'll definitely start overthinking again." Lucas was stunned. Leo continued, "You must be thinking that it's developing too fast and whether it's a good thing." Lucas moved his lips but didn't say a word. He had actually already started thinking like this. He had been in a daze these 2 days. It was really sweet, but he was also very worried. Before yesterday, he was still worried about leaving the job and afraid that he couldn't stay at Shearway to work. Last night, Leo's confession touched him deeply and their relationship entered a new mode. Before he could react, wave after wave of intimate contact came one after another, making him dizzy. He was surrounded by Leo's gentle embrace, but he didn't feel so at ease in his heart. It was too fast, so fast that he felt insecure. Their relationship advanced by leaps and bounds within 2 days, and Lucas was a bit at a loss. Leo could tell from Lucas' expression that he had guessed right. He said, "I understand your concerns." Leo found that as long as he was a bit more assertive, Lucas would be led around by him without any ability to resist. Saying that he, the single king, has no experience, isn't Lucas the same? No wonder he was deceived by a scumbag before. Leo thought to himself that fortunately Lucas met him on his second try. In Leo's eyes, the development of their relationship wasn't fast at all. He even wished he could directly carry Lucas to the Civil Affairs Bureau. But Lucas wasn't ready yet. He couldn't just focus on his own desires and ignore Lucas's feelings. The little secretary is uneasy and still treats him as his boss, not being so relaxed. Then go slower. Take it slow. Leo said, "All your thoughts are very normal. Don't get stuck in a rut." Leo reached out and stroked Lucas's face. "If you can't fall asleep, I'll send you a few documents later. You'll fall asleep after organizing them." Lucas burst out laughing. How could you be like this? You still don't forget to exploit me at this time. Lucas rubbed his cheek against Leo's palm and said, be careful on the way. Leo's eyes darkened. He pinched Lucas's face and then turned to leave. Lucas closed the door, returned to the bedroom, looked at the 2 dolls on the cabinet and sighed softly. The president is really so considerate, which made Lucas have an idea that he wanted to quicken his pace to catch up with Leo and reciprocate his care. Lucas took a shower, some time, and then fell asleep immediately. When he got up the next day, he just remembered that he hadn't washed the dishes yesterday. Just as he was about to go out to find something to eat and then come back to wash the dishes, the doorbell rang. Lucas stared at the monitor, looking at several people in work uniforms outside, completely puzzled. Opening the door, those people voluntarily said, Mr. Lucas, we are the housekeeping staff invited by Mr. Leo to help you tidy up the room. After saying that, someone presented a food container. This is your breakfast. So, Lucas sat on the sofa enjoying his breakfast while watching the housekeeping staff clean the house. They not only cleared away the bowls and chopsticks from yesterday but also cleaned the whole house, treating his small rental house like a mansion. Lucas couldn't help but persuade them, you can just do it casually. There's no need to be so serious. The payment would be the same and he wouldn't snitch. Anyway, it's a rented house. Those people turned their heads and said, seriously, we are a professional team. We are serious and responsible and never cut corners. All right, as long as you're happy. Truly a professional team. They were dexterous and quick. In less than an hour, they had tidied up the entire house, making it look brand new. When the housekeeping staff left, they even took away the breakfast trash that Lucas had just generated. The room became quiet again. Lucas looked at the clean and tidy rented house and couldn't help smiling. In the afternoon, Leo came to pick up Lucas on time. Lucas got into the passenger seat and said to Leo, thank you this morning, Mr. Leo. But don't do this again in the future. My small rented house doesn't deserve it. I'll do it myself. Leo wanted to say that if Lucas moved in with him, it wouldn't be so troublesome. He paused for a moment and just said, okay. Lucas didn't think much and asked, where are we going? Leo told Lucas to pay back the money. Lucas was puzzled. When they arrived at a restaurant and had been seated for a while, he understood when he saw Elena walking gracefully towards them. Elena was elegantly dressed and wearing sunglasses. As soon as she saw Leo and Lucas, the corner of her mouth twitched and then she sat down opposite them. She took off her sunglasses and said, the scenario I've envisioned countless times has finally come true. A long time ago, for a period of time, Leo was very rebellious. Elena was always afraid that he would become as cynical as Nolan and was on tenterhooks all day, fearing that he would bring back some shady partners. So she prepared 10 million yuan in advance, just in case one day she needed to play the role of here's 10 million. Leave my son. Who would have thought that Leo didn't care about anyone and even hated others getting close to him? Not to mention falling in love, he didn't even have a few close friends. Elena started to worry again. After worrying for so many years, she did some things in the middle to arrange a partner for Leo. Finally, she didn't expect that the 10 million would go to Leo's secretary and even less expected that Leo would bring Lucas to sit opposite her and confront her. Even idle dramas don't follow such a plot anymore. Leo took out the envelope and pushed it in front of his mother, saying, I've already said that due to inflation it's too little. Elena said, I'm old and can't get any more acting jobs. I don't have much money. Back then, they were willing to act in a good play without pay. Nowadays, young actors evade taxes worth hundreds of millions. Times have changed. Leo looked at his mother and said calmly, it's going too far to force him to quit his job. If you check, you'll find that Lucas' resume was released by Elena. Elena hoped that Lucas would go to another company and privately contacted headhunters. Elena smiled and said, you guys said yourselves that you're not together. How could Elena not understand her own son? The way Leo looked at Lucas was so different. She couldn't have failed to notice. It's just that the parties repeatedly denied it. She still held a glimmer of hope, thinking she was wrong. Now it seems she wasn't wrong. Leo really likes his secretary. Elena felt very conflicted. She hoped that her son would get married, have children, and lead an ordinary and normal family life, but she also hoped that he would be happy. Since she was already very unhappy, she couldn't let Leo be the same. Leo said, whether we're together or not, you shouldn't decide the fate of my subordinates for me. Elena smiled and said, come on, stop pretending to be so high-minded. You're just being selfish. Leo openly took Lucas' hand and said, yes, I'm being selfish. So I hope you won't target him anymore. Lucas had been silent all this time and only spoke up now. Madam, I'm sorry if I've made you uncomfortable, but I won't leave Shearway. He glanced at Leo and said, nor will I leave Mr. Leo. Elena thought it was absurd. The two young men across from her looked so committed to each other, and she really became the one trying to break them up. She said to Leo, you're so indecisive. All the things you've done recently have made your father very angry. Going against the group, your future will be very difficult. Do you still not care? Hearing this question, Leo suddenly called out, Mom? Leo rarely called Elena Mom directly. When he did, Elena was taken aback. Then Leo said, I've long given up on the chairman. I'm actually quite surprised that you still have such unrealistic fantasies about him. He whispered to his mother, it's time to wake up from the dream after all these years. Hearing this, Elena was stunned. She subconsciously retorted, I'm not having illusions. I'm just not willing to give up. Leo looked at her. Suddenly, Elena couldn't say a word. In fact, children are the most sensitive to family situations. Many parents think they can hide things from their children, but actually they can't escape their children's eyes. Leo knew everything. Elena lowered her head and took a sip of tea to hide her expression. Leo said in a gentle tone, I know you want me to get more resources from the chairman, but I hope you can think more about yourself. Elena always tried to reunite the family in the name of doing good for her children, but she still failed. Leo said, you have to think about your own things without other distractions. Elena was a bit annoyed and said, why are you lecturing me now? We're talking about the two of you. Leo always held Lucas' hand tightly. At this time, he glanced at Lucas and said, okay, let's talk about us. I hope you can look at our relationship without considering the company and the group. Leo asked, as just my mother, do you support me and Lucas? Elena couldn't answer. As just a mother, what she most wanted in her heart was for her son to be happy. Now her mind was in a complete mess. Lucas pulled Leo's hand and said, give the lady some time. Leo nodded. Suddenly, Elena felt that her son in front of her had changed. He had become gentle and understanding. The Leo in the past would never have said such things to her. All of this is Lucas' credit. It is Lucas who has taught Leo how to care about someone and how to love someone. Wait a minute. Elena frowned. This line sounded so familiar. It seemed that every president's mother in idol dramas would say this, believing that the protagonist had transformed her son. Sure enough, art comes from life. Although it's cheesy, it makes sense. Elena looked at Lucas with a complicated expression. Lucas gave Elena a gentle smile with a calm attitude and no sign of annoyance because of her forcing him to resign. Elena asked, don't you blame me? Lucas replied, you are Mr. Leo's mother. Elena understood. This was out of consideration for Leo and he couldn't care about it. Leo said beside them, don't hurt Lucas again. The subtext was that he would protect him. Elena sneered, now I really seem to be the evil mother-in-law who hinders young people from falling in love. After saying that, she stood up and left with a remark, do whatever you want. I'm too lazy to care. This sentence was the last stubbornness as an elder. Lucas looked at Elena's back and asked, is it okay like this? Leo said, it's okay. Ms. Elena will figure it out by herself after some time. He said to Lucas, I'll ask Ivy to eliminate the influence from the headhunter. No one will harass you anymore. Lucas smiled and said, it doesn't matter. The lady was just anxious for a moment. He could understand Elena's psychology, but it was a bit delicate for himself as the target. He sighed with emotion, it's worth it in this lifetime to witness the scenario in president-themed literature reappear. Just like Elena, Lucas had been imagining various content of domineering president novels since several people started to be in the same frame. Elena had said several familiar lines and he was extremely excited in his heart. Leo looked at Lucas with a strange expression and said, there will be many more opportunities like this in the future. Don't be nervous. The resignation storm automatically passed as the relationship between Leo and Lucas changed. Lucas sat at his own desk, lovingly wiping it. He liked his current job and didn't want to leave his current position. Even if he was in a relationship with the president, he didn't want to be transferred to another position. So, in order to keep his status as a secretary, he must keep his relationship with Leo a secret from the colleagues in the company. Lucas still had quite a few objections to office romances. If he didn't really have a crush on the president, he wouldn't be in a relationship with his superior. Leo also promised him that he wouldn't interfere with work. Lucas stood in the president's office, confirming the weekly schedule with Leo. Leo looked normal and showed no signs of anything unusual. Lucas looked at his handsome face and straight nose. Suddenly, he remembered that on Friday night, this man rubbed his cheek with his nose and spoke to him in a smiling voice by his ear and then kept going down along his ear. Adjust the schedules for Wednesday and Thursday and inform the clients. Confirm it on Tuesday. Leo was talking about the plan but didn't get a response as usual. He looked up at Lucas and said, "What are you daydreaming about?" Lucas immediately came to his senses and said, "Sorry, Mr. Leo." Leo glanced at him and said, "You can even be distracted in front of me. You're not a newbie anymore. Don't make such elementary mistakes." Lucas quickly said, "Sorry, Mr. Leo. It won't happen again next time." Lucas was extremely embarrassed. He had never been like this before. The president had been very polite to him. If it were in the past, whoever dared to be distracted in front of Leo would be bombarded with 3 consecutive questions by Leo on the spot. Lucas perked up and continued to listen to Leo's instructions to arrange the schedule. After the adjustment was completed, he leaned slightly and prepared to leave. Leo stared at him. Lucas asked, "Mr. Leo, is there anything else?" Leo said, "It should be me asking you if there's anything wrong with you." Lucas was stunned for a moment and said, "No." Leo waved his hand and said, "Then go out." Only then did Lucas leave the president's office. These days, Lucas had been distracted because of this matter. He didn't dare to be inattentive anymore. He double-checked every single thing, making himself a bit neurotic. Fortunately, the Chinese New Year is coming soon. Coupled with the fact that the sale of the old department of blcommunity was unsuccessful due to various factors, everyone is a bit slack and generally it's not very busy. Gossip is most likely to thrive when people are slack. During the lunch break one day, Lucas finished his meal in the company cafeteria, carried a yogurt and went upstairs. He found several assistants chatting together. He sat next to them, sipping his yogurt while listening to their conversation. Someone asked, "So, have you found out who Mr. Leo's partner is?" Lucas almost spat out his yogurt. "Ah, Mr. Leo has a partner? When did that happen?" That person slapped his thigh and said, "Didn't we discuss it during the last dinner gathering? Mr. Leo has been so gentle lately. He must have a partner. Now that you mention it, I've also noticed that Mr. Leo asked about where to buy fresh flowers, saying it was for a client." Leo never cared about such things before. It definitely wasn't for a client. Leo was indeed indifferent to such things before. He never did them himself and always left them all to his assistants. Actually, Lucas is the one who knows the most about gift shops, but Leo couldn't ask him and had to ask other assistants instead. Lucas sipped his yogurt and complained about the president in his heart. He usually handled things so comprehensively. Why was he so careless about this kind of thing? Didn't he know that the office staff were the most gossipy? The assistants started discussing, and the more they talked, the more it seemed to be true. The president not only has a better temper but also smiles now. The other day when I suddenly entered the office, I saw a smile on Mr. Leo's lips that he didn't have time to wipe off. Do you know how excited I was? That assistant clasped his hands to his heart, looking very touched and imitating the butler in a domineering CEO novel, said, "Young master, he hasn't smiled for a long time." Everyone rolled their eyes and said, "Come on, that's enough." However, we might really have a president's wife soon. Lately, the chairman seems quite dissatisfied with Mr. Leo. It doesn't seem to be because of company matters. It might be about personal affairs. When it comes to personal affairs, what else could it be? It must be related to the future president's wife. It sounded quite reasonable. So it means the chairman is not satisfied with Mr. Leo's partner. It seems so she may not necessarily become the future president's wife. After several rounds of discussion, everyone assumed that Leo had a girlfriend and this girlfriend was not accepted by the Qin family. The more Lucas listened, the more shocked he became. These people were so good at gossiping that they had deduced so many things. Even more incredibly, most of what they said was right. They are amazing. These assistants are really underutilized in the president's office. Lucas remained silent all the time, but as long as Leo was mentioned, he couldn't be avoided and the topic turned to him again. "Secretary Lucas, please give us some inside information." Everyone assumed that he knew something. Lucas said helplessly, "I really don't know. Mr. Leo never talks about his private affairs." Everyone looked at him with an expression of, "Come on, you're just pretending." It's all because Leo had had 0 scandals for so many years. Once there was a little rumor, it was immediately noticed and couldn't be hidden at all. "Secretary Lucas, are you single?" someone asked Lucas. Lucas was taken aback and said, "Why are you suddenly asking about me? We're just curious." Secretary Lucas is so handsome. It's impossible that he doesn't have a girlfriend. As soon as this was said, everyone turned their heads and stared at Lucas. Lucas forced a smile and said, "No, I'm single now." The assistants all showed surprised expressions. Even Secretary Lucas is single. There's no justice in this world. Some people started to roll up their sleeves thinking about finding a girlfriend for Lucas. At this time, a voice suddenly rang out and said, "At first, I thought Mr. Leo had taken a fancy to Secretary Lucas's good looks." As soon as this was said, the scene immediately fell silent. Everyone had thought about this more or less in their hearts, and today someone actually said it out loud. Lucas turned around angrily to see who was speaking. Sure enough, it was Nora. Nora continued expressionlessly, "After staying here for a long time, I realized I was wrong. Both of them regard their work as their lovers." Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. "Assistant Joseph, you're so outspoken. You can't just say such things casually." Someone publicly scolded. Nora looked blank and said, "I'm just stating the facts. After all this time, everyone has seen Secretary Lucas' abilities, so naturally they won't think that way anymore." Everyone had to admit that Nora was right. All the previous doubts and suspicions had vanished with Lucas' hard work over the past year. No one thought he got the position because of his looks anymore, nor did anyone think Leo would give him special treatment. Everyone began to praise Lucas for his hard work and good character. Anyway, they gave him a lot of compliments. Lucas forced a polite and embarrassed smile, thinking that Leo really had other intentions towards him. Finally, the lunch break was over. In the afternoon, Lucas found an opportunity to call Nora over and said to her, "Assistant Joseph, why did you bring up those things again? Don't say outside that Mr. Leo values my looks in the future." Nora blinked and said, "I didn't say that." Lucas said, "Even if you didn't mean it that way, it's easy for people to take it out of context." Nora thought for a while, nodded and said, "Sorry." Lucas was stunned. Why didn't she argue this time and apologized so quickly? Nora saw what Lucas was thinking and said, "I know I often say inappropriate things. Someone taught me a way. If I say something that makes others unhappy, I should apologize immediately and then they won't know what to do." He asked weakly, "Who taught you?" "There's something to it." Nora said, "Mr. Leo?" "Lucas." "As expected of you, Mr. President." Lucas had no choice but to say, "It won't work if you tell me this method. Don't mention it after apologizing next time." Nora nodded again. Lucas told Nora a few more things before letting her go back to her seat. The chat during the lunch break was just to pass the time. The reason everyone dared to say so much was that they knew it didn't matter if the chat content reached the president's ears. The CEO has publicly asked where to buy flowers. There's nothing that can't be said. Besides, the CEO is getting on in years. It's normal for him to have a rumored partner. Many people even welcome it and wish there would be a new mistress in the company. No one took the lunch break topic seriously except Lucas. Lucas finally endured until it was off work time and walked into Leo's office. Without even raising his head, Leo asked, "What's the matter?" Lucas said, "It's off work time, Mr. Leo. Only then did Leo look at him and say, "I'll stay a little longer." Lucas stood there without moving. Seeing this, Leo raised his eyebrows. Lucas said, "I'll wait here until you finish your work." Leo put down the tablet in his hand and folded his arms. It seems to be something very important. He looked at his watch and said, "I'll give you 15 minutes. As soon as Leo finished speaking, Lucas switched modes, frowned and said unhappily, "Why don't you try to hide it at all?" Leo was puzzled. "Hide what?" Lucas put his hands on his hips and said, "Colleagues all know you have a partner. They've only been in a relationship for a few days, but the assistants have already heard the news, which means Leo has never tried to hide it from the beginning." Leo finally understood what Lucas was talking about and laughed, saying, "I thought you were going to say something else." He waved to the junior secretary, "Come here." Lucas walked over as he usually did. This time, Leo directly pulled him onto his lap. Lucas was so scared that he wanted to jump up, but Leo held his waist tightly. Lucas said in panic, "We're still in the office." Leo looked at him strangely and said, "We've hugged and cuddled in this office several times before. Why are you just getting scared now?" Lucas blushed a little and said, "The situation is different now. The situation is different now." At that time, he was in a daze and didn't think there was anything wrong with getting close to Leo. But now that the matter has been brought out in the open, his mindset has changed. He's afraid of being found out every day when he comes to the company. In the final analysis, it's still because of a guilty conscience. Besides, we didn't always hug each other. It was only once or twice occasionally after work, and he had always been very careful about this. Leo put his arms around his waist and said, "It seems that it's not enough then." Lucas sat on Leo's lap, adjusted his sitting posture slightly to balance his body, and carefully put his arms around Leo's neck and said, "Don't change the subject. Asking others when you buy flowers is like telling others that you're going to give flowers. The assistants in the president's office are all very shrewd and will figure it out soon. Leo said, I never intended to hide it from the beginning. Whether it was buying flowers or consulting Henry, Leo never thought about hiding it. It's normal to be discovered by others. Lucas got anxious and said, didn't we agree not to affect work? Leo's hand slowly moved up and stroked his back, making Lucas tremble involuntarily. Leo asked rhetorically, so, has it affected you? Lucas was stunned. It really didn't have any impact. Everyone seemed to automatically ignore him. Even after Nora said those things, the colleagues didn't associate him with the president. Lucas said, we still can't let our guard down. Leo gently stroked his back to comfort him. It's okay. They'll only come at me. Leo also had his own selfish motives. Lucas wanted to keep it a secret, but Leo thought that they would have to make it public one day. Releasing the news in advance would not be too shocking at that time. And it makes me more approachable, doesn't it? Leo said. Lucas thought it made sense. Everyone liked the president more recently. They thought that he was more down to earth and approachable after having a partner. Lucas reached out to play with Leo's tie and said, this level is enough for now. Don't do anything else. Leo said, okay. Lucas opened his eyes slightly. This was the first time he made a request, and Leo obediently agreed, which was the opposite of the usual situation, making Lucas feel quite novel. He couldn't help but pat Leo's face and said, so obedient. Leo narrowed his eyes dangerously and exerted force with his hands. Lucas felt a jolt of electricity in his back and suddenly arched his waist, forming a wonderful curve. Lucas gave Leo a glare. Leo was tickled by his look and said, kiss me. Lucas said angrily, 15 minutes are up. The usually trustworthy president took back his words at this moment and said, the 15-minute limit is void. Come and give me a kiss. This is the office. Lucas lowered his head coyly. The two touched their lips and sighed contentedly in their hearts at the same time. Once one has tasted the forbidden fruit, it's hard to control oneself. Moreover, Leo was originally a carnivore. His cleanliness obsession used to be his shackle, but now this shackle failed in front of Lucas and he no longer had to endure. He wished he could tear Lucas apart and eat him up. Leo held Lucas's narrow waist tightly. Maybe because it was in the office, this special place made them even more excited. In the end, both of them were a bit out of control. There are still people outside. Not everyone had left. Some people stayed behind to work overtime. Leo said, it doesn't matter. No one dares to come in. You've changed, Mr. President. These are the words of a debauched monarch. Lucas's heart was also pounding. Kissing and cuddling in the office was like having an affair. He didn't want to be so boundary-less. But Leo's gentle touch and whispered words in his ear were so tempting, like a charming poison that one couldn't help but drink again and again. Just as the two were being affectionate, someone knocked on the office door. Henry's cheerful voice came from outside. Mr. Leo, you haven't left yet. No one dared to disturb him at this time except Henry. Lucas jumped off Leo's lap, tidied his clothes, and said faintly, I told you so. Leo frowned, thinking that he had been too lenient with Henry. Henry knocked on the door outside, unaware of the situation. After a while, the door to the president's office opened, and Lucas looked at him with a smile and said, Assistant Henry, what can I do for you if you're looking for Mr. Leo at this time? Henry was surprised to see Lucas inside. He paused for a moment and said, it's nothing. I just saw that Mr. Leo hadn't left and wanted to have a word with him. Hearing this, Lucas stepped aside and said, come in, please. Seeing Lucas with his rosy lips and white teeth, Henry casually said, Secretary Lucas has become even more handsome and good-looking. Leo gave him a cold look and said, get to the point quickly and stop talking nonsense. Henry muttered, it's nothing. I just wanted to ask how things were going. Leo was a bit confused and frowned, what things? With Lucas still there, Henry couldn't explain clearly and could only use a code word. You know, is it skydiving or scuba diving? Henry thought he had spoken covertly, but Lucas understood right away. When Leo confessed his love before, he mentioned a lot of romantic ways. It turned out that he didn't come up with them on his own but had a consultant. Lucas stood behind Henry and glared at Leo fiercely. Lucas' face turned cold and he said, Mr. Leo, Assistant Henry, I'm going off work first. You can talk slowly. After saying that, he left the office without looking back. Henry still didn't understand the situation and said, what's wrong with Secretary Lucas? Is he in a bad mood? Leo rubbed the space between his eyebrows. It seemed that Lucas really resisted office romances. Lucas was very angry and it took Leo a long time on the phone to calm him down. Lucas, you said you'd handle everything and there wouldn't be any obstacles or difficulties, but you're creating them yourself. You don't know how the assistants talk about you behind your back. Is this still considered not affecting work? Leo explained it really won't involve you. They'll only talk about me. Lucas, but if they're talking about you, how could it not involve me? The partner of Mr. Leo everyone talks about is clearly him. Leo said, I'm just laying the groundwork for the future. We'll have to go public one day. Lucas was stunned. It's too soon. Thinking so far ahead at this moment seems too hasty in Lucas' eyes. Leo knew that the word going public never existed in Lucas' mind. He didn't continue on this topic but just said, it's my fault this time. I was so eager to court you at that time that I got carried away and let Henry know. I'll definitely be more careful next time. Hearing what Leo said, Lucas was stunned again. He had never seen the president yield to others. Now that Leo was coaxing and comforting him, his heart softened immediately. Moreover, the way of saying courting made his face flush and his heart race. Don't do this again next time, Lucas said. Seeing that Lucas relented, Leo immediately said, Are you not angry anymore? Then let's do something fun. Lucas was on alert. What kind of thing? It sounded rather improper. Leo's voice was very low and full of smiles. He flirted over the phone, let's go on a date. Where do you want to go? Lucas perked up at once, can I go wherever I want? Leo was very generous, of course. He could even find a way if Lucas wanted to go to the moon. On the day of the date, looking at the cars in front of him, Leo said, You just want to come and see this? Lucas said righteously, It may not mean much to you rich people, but I really want to have a look. Lucas had long wanted to see the limited edition luxury cars. Usually when he went out with Leo for social events, he saw more business cars. High-end car stores had a membership system with a consumption threshold and he was not qualified to enter. So he just took this opportunity to let Leo take him to have a look. Looking at the globally limited super cars in front of him, Lucas showed a fascinated look. Only then did Leo remember that Lucas had said before that he wanted a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, and a Rolls-Royce. It would be best to have a garage to specifically collect limited luxury cars. Leo looked at Lucas's excited face and said, Little money, grubber, shall I give you one? No. Lucas refused quickly. Although he clearly liked expensive and shiny things, he didn't want them when they were really offered to him. Leo understood Lucas's little insistence and put his hand on his shoulder, hugging him and walking forward. In Leo's expectation, a date meant finding a quiet place with a good environment and atmosphere for the two of them to have intimate contact and develop their relationship. He didn't expect Lucas to want to come and see cars. Leo hugged Lucas and looked into his bright and excited eyes. He thought, well, as long as the little secretary is happy. The two of them slowly looked at the cars under the guidance of the car dealership staff. Midway, the staff even invited Lucas for a test drive. Lucas was too scared to get in and said it was okay just to look. Leo didn't have any concerns and pulled Lucas into the car with him. Since Leo was in the battery business and had close ties with the automotive industry, when the car dealership owner heard he had come, he came out specially to greet him. The two of them talked about the industry's development and had a lot to say. Since it was a date, Lucas didn't want to act as a secretary. While the two bosses were chatting, he slipped aside and went to look at other things on his own. Looking at Lucas's back, the car dealership owner said to Leo with a smile, Rarely do I see you with someone by your side. Your little lover is really handsome. Leo corrected seriously, he's my lover, my little boyfriend. The car dealership owner was stunned and then burst into laughter. The second young master of the Chin family was well known in the circle for being chaste and self-disciplined. Whether it was a man or a woman, he had never been seen flirting with anyone. There had always been rumors outside that it was because of the internal strife in the Chin family that he was keeping a low profile. Now it seemed that he just hadn't met the right person before. Now that he had met the right one, just like an ordinary person, he couldn't hide his urge to show off. The car dealership owner played to Leo's fancy and kept praising Lucas for being good, looking and seemingly highly educated. Leo really enjoyed it. In the past, he had always been alone in any place and scoffed at those who came with a partner. Now that he had Lucas, he finally understood the beauty of having a companion and couldn't wait to show off his little boyfriend to the whole world. Lucas walked aside to continue looking at the cars. He really wanted to take pictures and post them on WeChat Moments, but unfortunately many of the models here were not allowed to be made public without special invitation from the media. As he was walking, he suddenly felt that there was someone in front. That person stopped and stood there, staring at him. Lucas looked up and was stunned. He didn't expect to run into Joseph here. Should it be said that it's a narrow path for enemies? After Leo drove away with him in front of Joseph that day, Lucas hadn't seen Joseph again. Now that they met by chance, his mood was a bit complicated. Joseph still wore delicate glasses and had a cold-faced expression. Standing there, he was like a cold and perfect dummy. He looked at Lucas and said, "Are you okay?" The precise machinery became warm because of this caring words. Lucas was stunned for a moment and smiled. "What could be wrong with me?" Joseph said he was very fierce that day. Lucas was even more surprised. After a while, he continued to smile. "No, Mr. Leo is very good to me." Joseph looked at him deeply and nodded. Just then, Leo walked over, stood in front of Lucas, and said warily, "Why are you here?" Joseph said calmly, "It's a public place. Can only you come?" Leo sneered, "I wonder if you know a phrase called a persistent ghost. Somehow, the air was filled with the smell of gunpowder. Lucas looked at the two men carefully, hoping they wouldn't quarrel. Leo now had a more advanced way than quarreling. He pulled Lucas over, put his arm around Lucas' waist, and pulled the person into his arms. Leo held Lucas tightly and raised his eyebrows at Joseph triumphantly. Joseph looked at Leo indifferently, showing no expression. Lucas was very speechless. He secretly pinched Leo. Leo turned to look at him and asked, "What's wrong?" Lucas said crossly, "What do you think? Can you stop being so childish?" Leo said, "No." Now that he finally had a boyfriend, he just wanted to show off to others. Originally, Joseph didn't have any particular reaction to Leo's provocative behavior and even found it a bit boring. Now, seeing Lucas like this, he began to have some guesses about their relationship. Joseph asked, "So, you too?" He pointed at the two of them with his finger. Leo frowned and said, "Don't point randomly with your finger. It's impolite." His expression was cold, but there was a hint of pride in his tone. "It's just what you think. This time, no matter how you write reports and conduct analyses, it won't work." "I understand." Joseph pushed his glasses and said, "Based on the change in your relationship, I'll conduct a new round of evaluation." As expected of a robot, you're already calculating so quickly. Lucas was worried that Joseph would resort to some means again and said, "Joseph, my relationship with Mr. Leo has nothing to do with the company." Joseph said, "How can it be irrelevant? The relationship status of the company's person in power can have an impact on so many aspects." Lucas had no choice but to ask, "What do you want to do?" Joseph looked at Leo and Lucas and said, "It depends on you." After saying this, he turned around and left. Leo had been holding Lucas in his arms. Lucas couldn't break free, so he just let it be. After Joseph had walked far away, Lucas asked, "Leo, what does Joseph mean?" Leo looked at Joseph's back, lost in thought. When he heard Lucas asking, he said, "Who knows? He's just being mysterious." Lucas thought to himself that in terms of being cryptic, Leo was no less so. Maybe all bosses are like this. They never speak definitively and won't reveal their intentions until the end. Leo said, "Stop talking about him. It's not easy for us to come out on a date. Don't let a boring person spoil our mood." Lucas was still a bit worried and said, "Will he do something?" After all, Joseph had once snitched on Alexander. Leo was lazy in his attitude and stared at Lucas. "Why do you care about him so much?" Lucas was bewildered and said, "Where do I care about him? I'm just afraid he'll go against you." Leo put his arm around Lucas's waist and tightened it at this moment. Lucas had no choice but to get closer. Leo said, "Don't think about other men." Lucas expressionlessly pulled away Leo's arm, stepped out of his embrace, and imitated his tone, saying, "Don't read those domineering CEO novels anymore, got it? The more you read, the more tacky they are." Leo was once again intrigued. It was the first time Lucas used the word "don't" on him. Good, there was progress. The two of them had no intention of continuing to look at the cars and were ready to leave. But it would be a pity to just go back like this. Lucas said, "Then accompany me to look at houses." Leo sized him up and down and said, "Sure, little secretary. After looking at cars, you're looking at houses. You're making it big." Lucas modestly said, "It's all thanks to the generous pay from the CEO." He smiled and said, "I already have a car. I was just casually looking at luxury cars. I really want to buy a house. You accompany me around and give me some advice." Leo really wanted to say that Lucas could just move into Yunting Mansion, but he couldn't refuse the way Lucas was looking at him expectantly and readily agreed. The two first went to a restaurant for lunch. Leo was very curious about Lucas's budget and inquired about it while eating. Lucas was very vigilant and asked, "Why do you ask this?" Leo looked a bit innocent and said, "I'm just asking. I'll make recommendations based on your budget." As he said, he started to rummage through his phone and found some business cards. "I know a few real estate managers." Lucas stopped him and said, "No need. We'll just take a casual look later." It's almost Chinese New Year. It's not like we'll buy it right after looking. Besides, the houses in the hands of the real estate agents introduced by Leo were probably of the Yunting mansion level. He couldn't afford them. The two often had meals together and the atmosphere was harmonious. Leo would specifically take Lucas's taste into account when ordering food, and Lucas would tell the waiter to divide the meals in advance, showing concern for Leo's cleanliness obsession. After the two finished their meal, Leo drove the car and asked, "Which area of houses do you want to look at?" Lucas said, "Matter of factly, of course it's near the company. It'll be convenient for work in the future." Leo frowned. Near the company is a commercial area with few residential houses. Even if there are any, they are all old houses which are not suitable for living in Leo's eyes. Lucas had his own ideas and led Leo to a place he had never been to. Leo didn't expect that there were so many real estate agencies hidden in the high-rise commercial area. Just the scale of these agencies, Leo naturally looked down on them. Lucas's salary only increased after he was transferred to the president's office. Later, he saved a lot of money with double pay. However, the housing prices in City S were so high that his high salary for more than a year was still not enough for him to buy a house. But he still had another way to get funds. He could rely on his parents. His parents had long said that they would sell the house in their hometown and buy him a house in City S. He disagreed. Now that he had some money on hand, he could borrow some from his parents and pay the down payment without selling the house. These things were not urgent originally. Lucas planned to save money for a few more years before making a decision. But after his relationship with the president changed, his mindset also changed. He especially wanted to move out of his current rental house. Every time Leo went to his rental house, he would complain that the room was small. Lucas wasn't vain or inferior. He just didn't want the president to have to squeeze into the rented house with him when he came to see him. Lucas knew that he had a lot of petty thoughts in this regard, and even if he said these thoughts out, Leo wouldn't understand. The two of them looked at several houses nearby. Due to the limited budget and the lack of new real estate projects, they could only look at second-hand houses. Leo was very dissatisfied with this. It would be okay if they were rough-cast houses, but there weren't so many second-hand houses that were unrenovated and unoccupied. Once someone had lived in them, Leo just wouldn't go in to have a look. Change to another one. This one won't do. Even a quail's place is bigger than this. Leo turned around and left directly. Lucas grabbed him and said, "You even went into my rental house. Why are you so picky about second-hand houses?" Leo said, "It's different. It's because of you. I can't stand other things." Lucas knew that he wasn't pretending. Second-hand things really made him uncomfortable, so he didn't force him. They didn't look at many houses in the afternoon. Leo was dissatisfied and picky everywhere. He had a sharp tongue, and even the real estate agent's face changed. If it weren't for the watch on Leo's wrist, which was worth a house in the agent's hand, the agent would have found a way to shirk and run away long ago. Lucas dragged Leo to sit in the public rest area behind the office building. Usually, there were always office workers coming and going here. But today was a weekend, and it was also a cold winter day. The area under the large parasol in the rest area was empty with no one there. Leo didn't look happy. He kept a straight face and said nothing. Lucas said, "What's wrong, young master? Are you unhappy about experiencing the life of the working class with me?" "No." After holding it back for a long time, Leo finally couldn't help but say, "Don't buy these tiny apartments." Just thinking about Lucas living in such a place made him feel uncomfortable all over. He wanted to just pack Lucas up and take him to Yunting Mansion. Lucas just smiled and said nothing. He was just checking the market today to get an idea. He hoped to buy a bigger apartment in a quieter neighborhood. The apartments they saw today clearly didn't meet his requirements. Even so, the prices were still high. It seemed he still had to look in more remote areas. Lucas found that his plans were gradually being influenced by Leo. Originally, he just wanted to buy a convenient apartment, but now he started to consider whether Leo would feel uncomfortable there. Thinking of this, he deliberately said, "I want to eat ice cream." Leo looked at him and said, "Why do you want to eat ice cream in winter? Aren't you afraid of the cold?" "I'm just craving it. I've been walking for a long time and I'm hot. I really want to eat it." Lucas looked at Leo pleadingly. Leo hesitated a bit. Lucas complained sadly, "You bought me milk tea last time. You really don't cherish me once you've got me. Now I just want an ice cream and you're not even willing to buy it for me." Leo said, "It's not that I'm not willing to buy it for you." He'd even buy the ice cream shop for Lucas, but the experience of looking at apartments this afternoon had worn him out. He didn't want to experience the crowds in the commercial area again. Lucas gave him a look that said, "You've changed." Leo pursed his lips, took out his phone, and called over the bodyguard who was following nearby. He gave the bodyguard a series of instructions. The bodyguard left with a confused look on his face. After a while, he came back with 2 boxes of ice cream. Lucas finally burst out laughing when he saw this. He knew that Leo's bodyguards always followed him discreetly, and he also knew that Leo usually wouldn't let them show themselves. Leo stuffed the chocolate-flavored ice cream into Lucas' hands and said, "Are you satisfied now?" Lucas pretended to complain, "Really, you're not even willing to buy it for me yourself." Leo looked at him and said, "Come on." Lucas happily opened the lid, scooped up a spoonful of soft and creamy ice cream and put it into his mouth, filling his mouth with the rich chocolate aroma. His eyes curved into crescents and there was a beaming smile on his lips. He said, "I'm so happy today, Mr. Leo. Leo said indifferently, "You're having so much fun torturing me." Lucas didn't even deny it. He said, "I'm really happy that you're accompanying me and getting close to my life." He knew that his lifestyle was worlds apart from that of the president. He always couldn't help but test the president's bottom line. He was extremely delighted that Leo was willing to accompany him. The more Leo compromised, the more he could feel the president's affection. The realization that Leo truly liked him became clear and obvious, making Lucas no longer feel like he was in a dream but gave him a real sense of it. Lucas leaned a little closer to Leo to look at the ice cream box in Leo's hand and said, "What flavor is yours?" "I want to have a taste." Leo said, "It's the same as yours." Lucas showed a disappointed look and said, "We should have bought 2 flavors so that we could swap and eat." Leo looked up and said in a serious tone, "Really? But I think yours will be sweeter." Lucas immediately understood what he meant and smiled mischievously. "Do you want to have a taste?" As he said that, he scooped up a mouthful of his own ice cream with a spoon and brought it to Leo's lips. Leo wasn't polite either. He opened his mouth, looked deeply into his eyes, and ate it right from Lucas' hand. Lucas felt his body heat up under Leo's gaze and shyly lowered his eyes. Leo frowned and said, "Eating ice cream in winter is bad for your health." He savored it for a moment, looked at Lucas, and said seriously, "But it's very sweet." Lucas couldn't stop laughing. It was really cute for the president to say such cheesy love words. The 2 of them were sitting in the rest area, chatting and eating ice cream. Leo still thought it was too cold, and Lucas also felt cold towards the end. Seeing Lucas shivering, Leo took the ice cream and casually put it aside. He covered Lucas' hands and said, "You're afraid of the cold but still eat ice cream. You're really being a pain." With the spoon still in his mouth, Lucas mumbled, "But you're here with me. Where shall we go next?" Leo asked. Lucas looked up and said, "Where else do we need to go? Aren't you tired?" Leo said, "So far, we've been going to the places you want to go. It's my turn now." Lucas opened his eyes wide with the spoon in his mouth and asked, "Where do you want to go?" Leo looked at him meaningfully. "Anyway, it's the weekend. The night is still long and there's plenty of time." Lucas felt inexplicably timid when he saw Leo's look. Just as he was about to speak, he heard someone calling them. "Mr. Leo, Secretary Lucas?" Lucas turned his head and saw Nora standing not far away, looking at them hesitantly.